And we're back with more Coeur to the West. Today I want to talk about land clearing. There's a lot to consider when we talk about land clearing, and there's a lot involved in that. There's, as you can see behind me, we've got a foundation, and there wasn't a lot involved in putting in the foundation. There wasn't very many trees, there wasn't a lot of slash. It was just a matter of scraping off the topsoil, getting down to that uniform soil that's below the topsoil, and then building the footings and pouring the walls. So this is relatively easy. So if you're out looking for property, you can see that you're going to save a lot of money in construction if the lot is already cleared, like the one behind me. Yes, I did get a haircut. I made a horrible mistake and I went to a barber and I got a haircut. It's not the best haircut that I've ever had. I made a very, very bad mistake. I went to a barber and they certainly did shorten things up, but not necessarily uniformly. So might have to double up on my vitamins and see if I can grow my hair back out, or maybe it's just time to buzz it off. But this might be the worst haircut I've ever gotten. So you can see behind me on the foundation, the ground is all just leveled off to one plane. We've gotten down below the topsoil and the roots and gotten that out of the way, and now they're able to pour the footing and pour the stem wall, and then when it's time to backfill, we can come back in and backfill up to the foundation, up to within about 6 inches of the top of the foundation wall here. Our floor is going to be another 12 or 14 inches above this, but we'll keep the dirt level 6 inches from the top of the concrete and then sloping away from the house. This is a really, really simple way to do things. The advantage here is that the property is flat and that the property was already cleared. The stumps were gone, the trees were gone. There wasn't a lot of work other than just getting rid of the roots, getting rid of the topsoil, and getting things flat and ready to pour the footing. Every lot is going to have a certain amount of cleanup. Even if it's just grass and sod and a few bushes, there's going to be some type of material that's going to be in the way that you're going to have to get rid of. Some of the trees, some of the stumps, some of the slash you could burn. That would reduce that down to ash. But sod and grass, you can't really burn it. You got to think about, where can I put that where it can break down, where it can settle. You wouldn't want to put that in a roadway that you might drive over later, because it's going to continue to settle and compact and break down over time. But it is something to think about as you're clearing your lot, clearing your property, whether it's for roads or for a home, is what am I going to do with some of the sod that maybe I can't burn. I need a place to kind of lose it or spread it out or push it over the side of an embankment. But consider that there's going to be this material that you're not necessarily going to want in your backyard, that you're going to want to get rid of in some way, shape, or form. As we've gone from project to project, or even on our own property, in the beginning we put a huge priority on saving every bit of wood that we came across, whether it was birch or cedar or pine or whatever it might be. We saved every bit of firewood, thinking that we would stack it up, it would be good firewood, and we'll save all of it. As we've gone along and we've started to realize that there is so much wood out there, that we've become a lot more picky about what wood we keep and how old is that wood that we are keeping. There's several trees out here, as you can see in the back, that are dead, that may have been laying down, that may be rotten. Who knows how old they are. That might be some good firewood, but you got to consider how much time, effort, and energy is it going to take to go and turn that into firewood, and then how good is the firewood going to be. For us, it makes more sense to throw that into a slash pile and burn it up and wait for a better piece of wood than some old dry rotten piece that's been laying around for a while. So think about that. I know I've wasted a lot of time, effort, and energy in making firewood that's probably going to be rotten before I ever get it put into a wood stove somewhere. So something to consider as you're clearing a property. The idea that you're going to save every bed of wood and that it's all going to turn into firewood in your wood stove to heat your house at some point. Be careful with that. I personally put a lot of time, effort, and energy into saving wood that really was better off to just go into the slash pile and get burned. So if you're thinking that you're going to buy a piece of property and a 40-horse tractor and come out and push some trees over, take a look at how big this stump is and think about what it's going to take to move that tree around. So something to consider as well is what equipment's going to be needed for my property that I'm buying. It might be that if you want a 40-horse tractor and you don't want to mess with trees and rock, then maybe purchasing a bit of a hayfield that's relatively flat makes more sense for you and for your budget. But that's what we're talking about, is what is it that you want and what is it going to require to get that put together to build that house that you want on the property that you're picking. I see so many people that buy property because they want a view, but they don't understand the cost associated with that view. So even on a flat piece of property like this, there can be costs associated that maybe you're unaware of, like needing heavy equipment to pull these large stumps out of the ground. So we'll continue to keep talking about this and looking at all of the different options. You can see this foundation is almost identical to the other one. It's on flat terrain. It's just a matter of getting rid of the topsoil and smoothing things out so we could pour the footing and the stem wall. You can see clear out there in the distance across to the other side, there's the roof on that other house over there. So something else to consider is, where are you going to put your house in relationship to the other properties, and what views are you going to have of their property and what views are they going to have of your property? So sometimes it's worth it to buy a piece of property that has more trees, more stumps, more clearing, because you can create more privacy. So on one hand, you have the advantage that putting in this foundation is very simple, it's very inexpensive to do the dirt work and get ready to pour concrete. On the other, there isn't a lot of trees between you and the neighbor's house. Now, these are 5-acre lots, and you can see there's quite a bit of distance between the two. These lots are 330 by 660, but if you take two 5-acre parcels, you're 1,200 foot, more than 1,200 foot apart. That's a lot of distance between houses, plenty of elbow room. So you don't necessarily need 20 acres or 40 acres for privacy. You can get privacy on 5 acres, but understand that treed lots versus flat, open, cleared lots, there's pros and cons on both sides. You can see the water line. No, maybe you can't see the water line. It's kind of hidden in the shadow. But thinking about where your utility trenches are going to go from your well to the house, or however it works out, something you really need to consider. Especially if you ever have to go back and dig up that line, what is it that you may have to disturb, like a driveway or a garden or whatever it might be that might be in the way of that utility trench. Great. this well got put in, and it doesn't have enough volume. Let me restate that. It doesn't recover quick enough to be used for a house. A well's got to have a certain gallons per minute to make it be able to support a house. Because you could be washing dishes, somebody in the shower, and have a load of laundry going and call for a massive amount of water and run the system dry. And so a well typically needs 3 to 5 gallons per minute, 3 to 5 gallons a minute in order to sustain a single. When we're talking about utilities and buying property, wells should be at the top of your priority list to understand the wells that are around you. But make no mistake, that is no guarantee. When it comes to wells, you can have a well that's right here and one that's 300 foot away, and they could be totally different. It's all about what's underneath the surface, whether it's rock or soil or sand or gravel, whatever it might be, it's going to affect your well. And so well is one of those roll of the dice that you take when you buy a piece of property. But that said, if there's 2 pieces of property and one has a well and a well report, the value of that well isn't just the cost to put the well in, it's also the risk that somebody already took in drilling that well, because there's no guarantees. I have a lot of people say, well, that one's got a well, but we like the view on this one. I would take the one with the well, because there's just so many variables in drilling a well. I see people get into trouble all the time. They drill a well, it costs them $25,000 to drill the well, they still got to put a pump in, there isn't enough water, whatever the issues might be. Well is a huge variable. It's a big question mark. There's no guarantees on what your well is going to be or what it's going to cost. This well has a hand pump that they put in. You can get these online. They're really inexpensive. They're easy to install. And it's not a lot of water, but at least this well will get used for water, whether it's the garden or whatever it might be. There's access to water here. It's not dirty water. It's not real. It doesn't have a lot of sediment in it. It's relatively clean water. Seems like we fight roads year round. It's either we're pushing the snow off in the wintertime, or we're hoping that the mud will dry out in the spring, or we're fighting the dust in the summertime. Road maintenance is a huge issue in North Idaho. You're always going to have roads that have issues, and you're going to want to just, gosh, the dust. I think I'm going to sneeze. Road maintenance is always going to be an issue, so you need a way to take care of road maintenance, whether that's you on your own property or that's you with your neighbors in a shared road agreement that spells out exactly who's going to do what and how that gets paid for. But it needs to be something that's on your mind, is how am I going to maintain my access from wherever to my property? And that could be as short as 40 foot in front of your house to the county road, to 5 miles from your 20-acre property back down to a county road somewhere. But that needs to be something that you think about as you're looking at property, is how am I going to take care of that road? I see a lot of people that buy 20 acres because it's cheap, and then they go broke because they are constantly buying equipment, running equipment, working on roads, trying to open up access, or having to buy a snowmobile in the wintertime, park their car down at the bottom, and then snowmobile in and out. There's just, if that's the lifestyle you want, then great, but a lot of people don't want that lifestyle, but end up getting that lifestyle because they didn't understand what it was going to take to maintain access to their property year-round.